Hey guys, it's Jack, and this is, I haven't gotten to do one of these in a little while, so this is kind of what we were always calling a casino and coffee kind of morning chat. And we're going to start doing more of this stuff when we start the podcast finally. But the podcasts were put on the back burner because we're rebranding, and that's coming this week. Brand new website and brand new image. Everything is happening this week or by the end of the week, most likely. So you'll see why we had to put the podcast on hold, and hopefully we'll get started with those. So with the release this last week of Casino Diversification Toolbox Module 1, it's interesting because the things that people have problems with kind of understanding and putting into really the working position, putting it all together, the pieces are usually the same problem for most people. And it's kind of some of the gray area stuff. So I think we need to tackle some of those things, and maybe that it'll help people. So what we're going to talk about today briefly is kind of the mishmash between a stop loss, adapting to what's going on in your session, and switching gears. So what do I mean by that? So a lot of people will ask, what is the point of no return? So you have this, as we explain in the course, and we always explain, is that you have to have 100% confidence in the strategy that goes into your toolbox, right? So when you're playing it live, you should have already known everything that could possibly happen with that strategy, so that you can see what a difficult session is, what a disaster session could be possibly, and what those average sessions and really simple great sessions look like. So there's no real surprises. That's really the thing, is that so many people don't seem to do their homework and their evaluation and testing. And that's what we're preaching, of course, in the new course. And we're always going to preach that. Because if you do enough testing, you've seen it all already in simulation. You should not be shocked. And it's amazing to me how many people do a few sessions of a demo or they see something on YouTube, and then they can't believe that they've seen something on, I was almost going to say a channel, but I will not, roulette that magically makes all this money in 10 minutes. And then they go and try it, and the session looks nothing like what they saw on YouTube. Well, you can blame the YouTuber, but really you should blame yourself that you didn't properly test it and do enough sessions to beat it up before you even went and played it live, or as we say, putting it in your toolbox. So with that being said, what is the point that says, okay, this specific system or strategy is not jiving with the numbers that are coming out, let's say on the roulette wheel, or the patterns that are coming out for baccarat? Okay, what is that point? And I don't know that I can tell you an exact number. I know that a lot of you would love for me to say that if your session bankroll is $2,000 and you're now down $1,000, 50%, you should quit. I'm not going to tell you that, because I think that those are things you have to really learn in the testing phase. There are some systems that have a lot more stretching points that will, as we always use the term, cycle. So those type of strategies, and they can be in baccarat, craps, or roulette, by the way. Some of those cycle, and if you didn't catch it clean, where you didn't quit on the upscale, on the upside of the cycle, and it starts to cycle down, that's the way it goes. And that's why the testing is so important, for you to understand that. But there are times where there was no cycle up, right? and it just started on the wrong side of the coin that day and cycled down first. And you don't even know if the cycle up is going to happen or not, right? That's the panic attack. So I think, again, you have to decide what that point is, but you have to base it again on statistics and logging all those demos. And then once you're doing it live, understanding and logging those live sessions. And then it gets to be a lot more comfortable to make the decision that says this is not working right now. The worst thing you can do is to close your eyes and not make educated decisions, right? But it doesn't make it any better if you're quitting sessions too quickly, or if you're playing sessions for too long. And you know you're playing sessions for too long because you're greedy. And the greed factor, listen, that's the way that the casinos make the majority of their money. We know that, right? Because you were up money and you kept playing and playing and playing. And you say, well, Jack, how the hell do I know when to quit when I'm up? Well, you do know. You do know. It's not a guessing game. Because if you did 30, 40, 50, or 75 or 100 practice sessions, you already have the data as to the pressure points. That's the whole point. You already know that strategy maybe should only be looking at 4 to 6 units, let's say, in a shoe if it's Baccarat, and you played it, you've been playing it for an hour and a half. And now all of a sudden it's gone to garbage, and you were up in 5 minutes, 3 to 7 units, and you continue to play the session, and then you wonder why you get in trouble. So it's really a matter of data. Everything comes down to data, and that's what Casino Diversification Toolbox is starting to show you and kind of put that in your brain, and that's what we're talking about here. So the last thing I want to talk about here is what happens then, the adaptation, right? We're talking about stop losses, but now we're also talking about a moving target, shifting gears, adapting. Well, that's why you need a toolbox in the first place. If you're standing at a craps table and you planned ahead, which you should, and you practiced, let's say, 3 different strategies that are in your toolbox that you want handy, that you want those magic potions to be available to you, right, in the game. You want those potions there, right? So it's like, think of comic books. You guys know I collect comic books, right? So think of Batman, right? He has a utility belt, right? He's got a utility belt. Doesn't have superpowers. He has to use his brain, and he has to use items. He has to use technology. So whatever he puts in his toolbox is all that he has, right? So if he needs a rope, if he needs a smoke bomb, if he needs whatever, if it's not in his session ready toolbox for the day, then he's not going to have it. So let's say that you bring into your utility belt that day three strategies. 2 of them are balanced type of strategies, right, that are hybrids like I play, that have a dark side and a light side. But let's say the third strategy that you're really excited about today is a strictly dark side strategy, meaning that you can't really have the shooter hold the dice for very long or you're going to lose. It's based on the 7. It's based on shooters 7ing out. And you go to the casino and you're so excited about playing that strategy. And you start playing that strategy. And first of all, you shouldn't even do that. You should be watching the table, right? You should be evaluating what's currently going on the table. And the table looks like it's going to be pretty good for that dark side only strategy. People are 7ing out. You watch the dice go all the way around, and you're like, okay, I would have done pretty good there. I think this is a good entry point, right, to start my session. And you start the session, and 2 guys walk over to the table that weren't playing while you were watching. And the first guy holds the dice and he throws 20 numbers in a row. You're not doing too good with a dark side strategy if the guy threw 20 numbers in a row. But it's okay. You're not panicking. You've seen this before in testing. And you're holding your ground and you're playing the system properly with the right money management. But 15, 20, 25 minutes in, whatever it is, things are not going well. You barely get above even or back to even, and all of a sudden the table is just hot as hell. And it has shifted into being, good roll after good roll. And now maybe somebody's even had a really good roll, right? They've made 4 points. They have made come out sevens, and it's not looking good. All right. You need to understand enough. This is where the practice comes in before you even walk into the casino. So at this point, you have a choice to make. You're down a few dollars. You're not crushed, because you should never let your bankroll get crushed, but you're not doing well, right? You have to be ready to make that difficult decision. And that decision is, I'm going to virtual bet, meaning that I'm not going to put money out, and I'm going to wait for the vibe to change at this table. Because most of the time the table is not hot in craps, right? The table is cold to lukewarm. And you just happen to be there at the wrong time when the table started heating up and playing the wrong strategy, right? You can wait it out and let the table to cool down, which can happen in a heartbeat, by the way, and usually does. Just ask light side players. Or you can decide to shift gears. Because in your utility belt for the day, you have those other 2 strategies ready to go that you were ready to play. And those strategies are more balanced, right? They're more balanced, or maybe there is a light side strategy that you brought that day that you were going to play out of your toolbox, your bigger toolbox. Now, knowing me, I'm not switching to the light side strategy, the full light side strategy, very rare, all right? I usually am going to take a deep breath. I'm going to evaluate what happens over the next couple of shooters if things calm down. And I will either continue with the strategy that I was playing, because it's now come back to the middle ground. It's come back to where it needs to be for me to win with that strategy. Or I'm going to shift to one of the other strategies, right? You have to make those business decisions. But the moral of the story here is, number one, not to panic, because you should have seen all these things in demos. And if you're panicking, it means you haven't done a good job on the evaluation phase whatsoever. Because you should see some terrible sessions, because that's the way everything works in all of the games. And you should see some monster easy sessions, and then you should see your normal average sessions. Nothing should be that much of a shock to you. And that's the problem that I hear from people. And that tells me that they haven't done enough demos. They haven't done enough paper trading. And I don't know what the problem is there. I'm not sure it's laziness. I'm sure it's they're just not doing the proper evaluation. They get excited about seeing something or watch a system. They practice it a little bit and they're done. And they haven't really seen the ebbs and flows of that system. So, yes, it's a gray area when to stop. You don't have to give up on a strategy during that session, but you may want to take a breath, right? You may want to take a breath at the roulette wheel, at baccarat, at craps. Now, baccarat for me is a little bit different because there's a beginning and an end, right? A shoe starts, a shoe ends. And the problem, though, is that even within a shoe with baccarat, you can go from the craziest, sticky, streaky shoe at the beginning to then being the most ridiculous chop shoe in the middle of the shoe. So when people say a lot of times, is it a chop shoe? Is it a streak shoe? It's a chop currently. It's a streak currently, right? So there are shoes that are one or the other. We know that, but there's everything in between. But the difference with baccarat is I feel that there's a beginning and an end. So it does end, whatever is happening, right? Most of the time, well, all the time for me, I'm never playing the full shoe. I usually want to get out by hand 50, 60, the latest. The latest. And if I'm in the shoe that long, it's because I haven't made my profit target and I've been going up and down. So it's not a great shoe anyway. The good shoes, I'm out by hand 20, 25, 30. All right. If you're still in the shoe after that, it must be either the type of system you're playing, you must be taking more risk. I don't know what's going on there, but that's the way some people are. But with craps and roulette, it's not like that because there's no beginning and an end. There's only a beginning and an end for your session. So taking a deep breath, pulling yourself out of the emotional perspective at that moment, the frustration level, which shouldn't really be happening after a while, but we're all human, right? You have to determine whether it is time to cut your loss there, take a deep breath and move to a different strategy that you feel fits the current moment better. But remember, it's all one session in the bigger picture. Do not panic and do not try to go above your means and your bankroll for a strategy just to try to make money back from something that may have started wrong with a different strategy. So if you're playing $25 bets and that's what your bankroll is at, and you're finding it real hard at the moment, and you decide it's time to take a breath, and let's say it's time to switch gears to another strategy, I'm going to tell you right now, the worst thing you can do is to try to quote unquote make up for the losses quickly. Now, I know that's counterintuitive to what people tell you on YouTube. A lot of these guys, well, I'm trying to make up and get in profit as quickly as I can. They have no clue. You watch them do it on a 10-minute video, and they're doubling and tripling up to make up for what they lost, and it magically works out. And then you try it, and you crash and burn. This is a business. This is not about what happens in a 15-minute, 20-minute session. This is a business. You need to look at things on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, 6-month, and a yearly basis. And the proper way to do that is to not panic and try to make money back from a session that didn't go great, instantly try to make it all back. If you have the right strategies in your toolbox, it just happens. And you've seen me do it on videos where I take the most ultra conservative money management that I teach. And even though I had a bad bump in the road for a while, you see, even with the most conservative stuff, I'm back to reality pretty quickly. So you can either do it their way and panic and try to take way bigger risks than you need to, or you can do it my way. All right? That's up to you. I can only tell you how things work out. People that make a living in sports betting or trading or crypto, if they have a trade that's not working out, they don't just go borrow money and throw 10 times the amount into the next trade. That is a losing proposition. Though that's not the professional way of playing or trading, even though that's what you hear from some of these people. We're down $300 right now, so I'm going to now go across the board and bet everything at $250 a number when they started out as a $25 bettor. And it magically works out for them in that 15-minute video. And they go, look where I'm at now. If you're going to follow that, you're going to lose. That's not business. That's not a game plan. That's not logic. That's not common sense. Patience. Patience. The farther you allow yourself to get away from break even, the worse you are. Now, you're going to get away from break even in all of these strategies. It's an ebb and flow, right? But if you make it worse, it's not the strategy and it's not the casino, it's you. And if you listen to some of these people, what you're doing is taking a bump in the road and making it a crater. That's what you're doing. So It's when you evaluate later, most of you realize afterwards what you did wrong. That you didn't just keep playing, or you didn't stop and take a breath and switch gears. What you did was panic and try to make all the money back, because that's what you saw the guy in the YouTube video do. He doubled and doubled and doubled, and then all of a sudden, he made bets on the craps table that he never even made during. It's not even part of the system. Okay, all of a sudden, magically, he's making $500 lay bets, and they were never even part of the system. And he magically comes back and is now up $300. That's gambling. I don't care what he says. It's gambling. If he didn't even show it to you as part of the quote-unquote Holy Grail God strategy at the beginning, and now that he's down, he's throwing in these extra bets, it's not a strategy. It's not a system. It's throwing money around and hoping and praying. That's not a business. So that's the deal, guys. The moral of the story is there are really no surprises. So when someone says to me, oh my God, there were 6 PSOs in craps the night before, have you ever seen that? My answer is, yes, I've seen that. Do you normally have 6 consecutive PSOs? That's 0.7 out. A point's established and then instantly a 7. Do you normally see 7 of those in a row? No. Can it happen? Yes. But if you did the demos and the simulating enough, you would see that that's not fun. I don't like it, but it can happen. And you'll already know how that worked out and how that played out in the sessions that you paper traded. You know, maybe it was time to move from, if you were playing a don't pass system, to something else. Maybe it's time to play a system that's really based on lay bets as the dark side component. Maybe it's time to take a deep breath and just let those moments pass you by without getting deeper in the hole. You know, one of the best systems that I will swear by, I finally gave you guys in the Casino Diversification Toolbox. It's called the Lay Magic system for craps and bubble craps. And one of the things in that system that we show you is an indicator. Yeah, just like in trading, an indicator. It's built into the toolbox, into the sheet. It does it for you. And you have the ability to know when the rubber band is getting stretched in the way for that system that it's going against you. And we built in a way that you switch to virtual bets at that point, and you're still putting in what happens into the spreadsheet, right, on your phone. So even though you're virtual betting, you're still putting in the results, and you make the determination then when you jump back to live betting, when the rubber band comes back. I love stuff like that. So there are many ways to deal with when a system is not working for you at the moment. At the moment. And that's what this video is about. There is not one answer. But I will definitely say this. Unless you're playing a system, and there are systems like this, where your full session bankroll is meant to be put at risk, where you have a $500 bankroll and there's no stopping, those type of systems. And I don't play a lot of those, but there are systems that are like that that it's a seed and the seed can be lost. It's not just capital. It's a seed that's either you're going to make it or you're not. We don't show a lot of those type of systems, but some of them are actually pretty good because you don't lose your seed very often, But if it's not one of those systems, you have to get comfortable making those decisions, not panicky and not with emotion, as to when to go into a virtual betting mode, go back to paper trading and not putting your money at risk, and hang on and wait for things to settle down that are going against you. Or it may be time to evaluate switching to a different system or strategy in your toolbox. Adapting is something that for craps, it is a skill set that you learn after a while. I'm not going to lie to you and say, well, it just comes easy. That is something that the more you practice, the more you're going to get good at, reading the table and what's going on. I don't think that's true with roulette. I don't think there's reading a damn thing. I think if something isn't working in roulette and you've given it a shot for that day, and it's just not working the same way as it's worked over your 50 to 100 demos and other live play sessions, and things don't feel right, I think you can shift to other systems much quicker. Okay. Baccarat and craps, though, are a little bit different. I think that you do get a feeling for what's happening at that moment in the shoe or in that session with the shooters at the table for craps. And I think it's more of a bobbing and weaving and adapting scenario. Roulette is a little bit easier from that perspective because I believe that the best systems for roulette are not as specific for what's happening on the wheel at that moment. The systems that we've included in a lot of our paycheck series stuff that you can buy and in the casino diversification stuff are based really mostly on solid math and statistics. And they do get out of whack and you can lose, right? But I don't think there's anything really specific that's going to stand out and say, this system is not fitting the table because of a certain thing, or I have to hang on. I think you can switch gears with roulette without having to have a innate ability to understand or get a feeling for something. I think you can switch gears easier. That's all I'm saying with roulette. All right, well, that's the story. We're going to do a lot more specific videos on these subjects because being light on your feet is part of succession and succeeding in business, in any business, trading, crypto, options, retail, it doesn't matter. If you close your eyes and you never adapt, you're going to blow up. It doesn't matter what you're doing, no matter what anybody tells you. You have to be able to evaluate the numbers later on after you're done, calmly look at your sessions, continue to evaluate your toolbox strategies, and make tweaks and do what's needed to do to keep your business afloat and keep moving forward with consistent profit. And there are bumps in the road. There is no business in the casino or out that doesn't have bumps in the road. It's part of the deal. But how you handle those bumps in the road from an emotional perspective and being light on your feet is the difference between the 99% of the people that just give up and blow their money or try to make it all back in a heartbeat and blow up their bankroll, and the people that say it's just part of the deal and quit for the day, walk away from the table and reevaluate, or just make up your losses for that session over the next few days. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand either. If you quit because things are just not going well and your mental state doesn't feel right that day, things are not working, and let's say you lost $200 and you quit, and you ended the day down $200, so what? So what? If you were at the stage where you were making $100 a day, what is $200 day loss and quitting for the day in the bigger picture on a graph or a chart? What is that? It's nothing. So don't make stupid decisions emotionally. The $200 you lost on a Monday can be made up over the next day, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and just continue on doing what you would have done without that $200 loss. Just chalk it up. You don't have to make it up. That's the worst thing you can do, is decide to make up a loss. People get killed making up losses. If you have a good business, the day that you do less is instantaneously made up by all those days that you do slightly better than average. So why are you trying to make it up? These are the pitfalls that are out there. Maybe something in this video finally, the bell went off. I hope so. I'll see you on the next video.